and Harold and I graduated in '67. He was in the winter class with me, and our friends William Yamaguchi. But
Did you have Gail Yatabe?
Gail Yatabe's on the reunion committee.
Is that right?
Yeah, as well.
Is she still royal looking as she was?
Oh, she's beautiful.
Days?
Yeah,
She's a beautiful woman.
beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And Marilyn Lee,
Yeah.
Yes.
is on the reunion committee. She was class of '67 as well.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah. So all
You
of
didn't
them.
have Linda Hernandez, right? That
Linda Hernandez was in '60, either summer. Okay. We're on a little test here. 1, 2, 3. Can I you say something for me, just and I'll run it back to make sure that we're recording you?
Okay. How are you?
Okay, good. Good morning. We're here in the home of George and Esther Blanc, who have agreed to do an interview for us so that we could play this at our 40th reunion, and it's hard to believe it's been 40 years. But Esther and George, could you tell me a little bit about where you grew up and attended school, college, and your major in college? What you did there, please?
Okay.
Well, I grew up in the LA area. As a matter of fact, I attended Cortez Elementary School in LA. I went to Virgil Junior High. I am also a graduate of Belmont. I graduated in 1957.
Oh, good. George?
Well, I was born in France, in Nice, on the French Riviera. And so I went to 13 different schools, but eventually I had the pleasure of doing student teaching at Belmont and just fell in love with the school. But my high school was Hollywood High.
Now, you fell in love with more than just teaching at Belmont. Obviously, when you got there to Belmont, you met Esther.
Well, we met, actually we were in college together, but we didn't really talk to each other. But we were brand new teachers at Belmont, and so we kind of helped each other out. And what helped us become good friends is that Esther didn't drive, so I drove her as she's sponsor. She was the maintenance sponsor, and I would drive her to different places for decoration, for dances that were coming up. And over the 2 or 3 years, we developed a relationship of friendship, and then eventually we realized maybe it was a little more than that.
Yeah. Now, when you went to college, did you both know that you were going to become teachers?
Yes.
Okay, so your majors then blended into...
We were in the same
Yes, we were in the
couples.
same division. We were both the business majors.
And was Belmont your first teaching experience, or where did you start teaching?
No, Belmont was my first teaching experience. I did student teach at, I think it was Serrano High School, and then I student taught at Belmont. I was finally offered a position at Belmont and started teaching at Belmont in 1962.
What subjects did you teach there?
It was, all the topics were in business administration. At that time, I did teach shorthand, a long dying skill, and typing, accounting, office procedures.
Was Danler Erdman there at the time in the business
He
department?
was a teacher at that time.
And George, what did you teach there?
I was obviously teaching the business department too, and that's the reason why some students later on, after we became more than friends, wondered if we were teaching business or monkey business. But I was teaching accounting and business machine, general business, and also French 4, advanced 4th-year French, when Beckman needed some assistance to cover some of the classes.
Okay. How was Belmont? Well, you went to Belmont, Esther, but for you, George, how was Belmont different than the high school you attended?
Well, Belmont was like a united nation. And so when I went there as a student teacher, because I went to Belmont and then I went to Roosevelt High School, and then eventually I was offered a position at both Hollywood High, my alma mater, and Belmont, and I chose Belmont because Belmont, everybody seemed to really care for each other, and it was great, loving and supportive faculty and students and what have you. And not that Hollywood was bad, it's just that it was slightly different in those days.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's always been like that at Belmont, and it's always been kind of a United Nations.
Right. Like a United Nations.
And so the students and the faculty back when you were teaching there in the 60s,
Oh, they were great. Yeah, they were wonderful.
everyone got along real well.
Oh,
and
yes.
Yeah.
No
But-
fights. I mean, we didn't have any gangs. I mean, it was just great.
Who were you, do you remember who your administrators were, your principals were
Yeah,
back then?
Mrs. Lord, Iona
Mrs.
Lord was the principal.
Right.
Yeah. And if you, what was probably the most satisfying thing that you can remember about teaching at Belmont?
Well,
My,
go ahead.
I think my greatest joy was being able to help students. The students who were there were in dire need of some type of educational background, especially directed towards a career.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with the students because they were honest, simple, hardworking. And they were very, very accommodating. The students, I felt, they made Belmont like a second home.
Yeah.
And it was very family oriented.
Yeah. And George, you did some. You were telling me earlier you used to work with work experience as well.
Right. You know, and I would support everything that Esther said about the relationship with students and the able to help them and what have you. But one of my most gratifying experience was work experience, because I would help people, I mean students who otherwise would have dropped out of school, but because they had a job in the afternoon where they could support their families, they could also go to school in the morning. And we built the largest, it was the largest high school work experience program in the state of California. We had 875 students enrolled.
Wow. Did you do the job developing yourself?
Yeah, because when I first started, I took it from Ben Lee,
Uh-huh.
who had, I think we started with 57 students and we built it up to 875.
That's amazing. And do you remember at all what kind of businesses were supporting the students back then around the downtown area?
All types of businesses, you know, and they really enjoyed having Belmont students there because they were good workers, they were faithful, they showed up on time, and they were dependable, you know, and so it was easy. And I would list jobs. We had a job board right outside the office in Kersey Hall, and students would come during their breaks to look and see if there were any new jobs available and those kinds of things.
Sounds like you had a great program. I'm hoping we'll bring the program back again. What do you remember, and I know we talked about this earlier, about the blowouts of 1968?
Well, the 60s, at the beginning of the 60s, they were just great. There was no problem. We all, as I said earlier, we were all getting along well. And then the latter part of the 60s, like probably around 68, 69, that's when it started, where you would have 200-300 students going outside and jumping on top of cars. And I remember speaking with ABC television gentleman who was covering the event, and I said, you know, we have over 4,000 students, 3,700 are in class studying and behaving, but you're focusing on just these 300. And I remember he was telling me, he said, well, you know, but this is news. The students in the class, we don't care.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that we had an enrollment that large on such a small campus. That's only about 9 acres.
Right.
And at that time, it was a traditional school. So all of those kids were all there, all at the same time. And like you said, for the most part, everyone got along. I don't remember
Yes.
any real altercations on campus. In fact, it was even smaller because we had the tennis courts that were in the middle of the campus at that
campus,
time.
That's right.
And then we had Kersey Hall at the end of the track. So everyone did really get along very well.
Right.
Now, after your years at Belmont, when did you finally stop teaching at Belmont? What did you do after you stopped teaching at Belmont?
I was at Belmont from 62 to 66. And then I left Belmont to raise a family. I returned to Belmont in 1972, and I stayed there until 1978.
Okay.
And we moved to Orange County in 74. So therefore I did commute for 4 years.
That's a long commute.
That was a long commute. I remember waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Everyone was still asleep. I remember dressing in the closet not to wake the members of the family. I would have to leave Orange County by 6 o'clock in the morning to be at Belmont by 7.
Oof, that's dedication. And George, what have you been doing?
Well, I realized after some of these events occurring in the city of LA, and particularly at Belmont, that possibly in our community where we were living in West Los Angeles, we wanted to move our family a little quieter location. So I decided to go back to school and earn a master's degree. So I went to the University of Southern California, and I was fortunate to have 3 job offers after graduating from USC, and one of them was Orange Coast College in Orange County, Costa Mesa. And I didn't know Orange Coast from Orange Julius, but when I arrived there, I was an administrative associate dean, and it was just great. But I continued teaching a class, so I would do 50, 60 hours of administrative work, and then plus teach a class on the side. So I've always been teaching
You're
business
still, you're
courses.
still teaching now.
Yeah, I'm still teaching now.
Counseling.
No, it's a business course I'm teaching. It's
Okay.
called How to Start, Manage, and Operate a Small Business.
Do you guide other clients? You have other clients as well.
Plus I do counseling. I've done 1,520 some businesses that I've worked with
Oh my
in the
gosh.
last 10 years. Counseling them, assisting, helping them to survive in this tough business climate.
So you realize now, once the classes of 67 see this, they're going to be calling you
That'd be
for
great.
advice.
We're ready.
Okay. When we show this, we're going to show this video, clips of this video at the reunion, and I'm hoping that you both can come. What would you like to say to the classes of 67, or do you have any advice that you might offer them?
Well, they graduated 40 years ago, so they've had I'm sure, a very successful life. It's a little late for us to give them advice, but we certainly enjoyed them. They were great, all good people. I remember quite a few of them fondly, and I'm sure they have now children and grandchildren, so it's a little late to advise them, but it was fun that we were all together at Belmont.
Yeah,
It's amazing to see some of the successful graduates from the 60s. Between 1985 to 2005, I taught at Mater Dei High School.
Okay.
And one of the students walked into the classroom. It was a back-to-school night. And in walked the parent. I recognized the parent as a student from Belmont.
Oh gosh.
I was just shocked and amazed. And just to see the successful nurturing of a Belmont student, successfully graduating, creating her own business, having a child at Mater Dei. And it was just beautiful to see some of these former students returning.
I would agree with you, and I think that as educators, we sometimes forget until we run into old students how we touched their lives and may have made a difference. And
Yes.
until they come back and say, yeah, I remember you, I remember. And thanks to you, this is what I'm doing. I want to thank you both for taking the time out to do this
Pleasure.
with me. It's good to touch base with you again. Good to talk about the family and certainly Harvey and your family. And so I hope that we'll have an opportunity to see you again, and I will certainly send you an invitation to the
Thank you very much.
reunion, and hope that you come. Is there anything else you'd like to say that or if I forgot to ask?
Well, thank you for the reunion and reminiscing.
Well, thank you for being there 40 years ago.
We have to tell you that we also have 2 granddaughters, and they walk on water.
Well, all grandchildren walk on water, don't they?
Right.
How old are they?
One just turned 6, and the other's 3.5.
Oh, good.
2
good.
girls, and they live right next door to us,
Well, they aren't spoiled, are they?
so they're not spoiled.
Of course. They're spoiled with lots of love.
That's the important thing.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.